Right, so finally, let's talk about the brewing row between Ireland and the UK. Ireland is essentially blaming Brexit Britain for its migration crisis, in particular the Rwanda policy. Now, the Irish Justice Minister quite infamously claimed, Helen McEntee, their name is, that 80% of the migrants in Ireland have come directly from the UK and are being sort of encouraged to come here surreptitiously. I mean, Jacob, what have you made of this? I mean, is this just sort of buck passing from the Irish government?
Well, it comes at the same time as a kind of popular discontent in Ireland around the immigration issue is really, and especially the asylum issue is really, really beginning to grow and maybe even get a little bit out of control in some places. And that we saw the riots or the protests a little while ago now, but now lots more videos are cropping up, people confronting even builders, as one viral video had it, of who were said to be converting a hotel into a place to house asylum seekers. And so it's like there's this groundswell of feeling that the Irish people are being kind of given a very bad bargain by their leaders. And then they've got no answer to this. They're completely constrained within all of the kind of processes and procedures of the EU. So they're not going to change anything. They probably can't, even if they wanted to. And so instead, it's kind of convenient. Let's return to the old enemy. Oh, it must be the kind of the British who are at fault. And I think it probably doesn't take a genius to realize that it's not everybody who comes in to London to like try and start a new life or be an asylum seeker or something, or coming through Dover, has suddenly decided to go to Northern Ireland and go down. It's like it seems it's much less likely that that's the case than they found a scapegoat for an issue that they don't have any answers to.
Yeah, definitely. Tom, what have you made of it?
No, I think it's been interesting how with this story, it's just that whole narrative that the Irish political class have been trying to spin in recent years, very much defining themselves against Brexit Britain, that we're this wayward, populist, horrendous, anti-migrant place, and how in this story it's just kind of unraveled all of that. So obviously there's the point about there's many kind of Irish political leaders spent a lot of time talking about the Rwanda policy and how this proved that the Tory government is rotten and so on. They're now in the process of trying to challenge trying to change the law because their own courts have said that you cannot deport migrants to Britain because it's an unsafe country. Yeah. So they're now having to kind of reverse ferret on that. There's obviously the whole border question. Varadkar in particular, now departed, was very central in the EU's weaponization of the border issue to try and bring Britain to heel in the negotiations. Now they were sending police up to go and monitor the border. It's been kind of walked back a bit. They're trying to pretend they're not doing it, but that's really interesting. So on immigration, on the border, it's just all unraveled suddenly. It's
hilarious. Because they were basically saying during the Brexit arguments that if you have a single customs check, you know, if you check some milk, or some cheese passing from Northern Ireland to the Republic of Ireland, there will be, you know, the IRA will be back. They'll be firebombing the customs borders. And now they've sent the actual police down to the border to stop people moving back and forth, something which, you know, even a different Brexit deal would never have proposed.
Yeah, well, it really bespeaks the fact that this is them casting around for some kind of external solution to what is a kind of a homegrown, or at least a problem that comes with being part of the European Union and with all the border problems that we know we have, and that sense that something that is very representative of the kind of cultural elites and the political elites who govern large parts of the West, that something that could seem like a sacred cow a few months ago or a couple of years ago can suddenly just be dropped overnight. Yeah. And you've got a complete, because the political imperative demands it. And that as much as anything is what really grates, I think, with people who are watching this as almost as spectators, that, hang on, you told us 1 minute this was the most important issue in the world, and now, as you know, we'll have police on the border, why not?
and Tom, funny, I mean, is it, I guess, could you say it's sort of unraveling of virtue signaling? Because there's nothing wrong with inviting lots of, you know, refugees over to Ireland or to the UK or whatever, but you kind of need to have a plan for how to deal with it.
And you need to do it with the consent of the people who already live there. I mean, that's the one thing that I think Ireland has become just a slightly more extreme version of, is that for the technocratic political class, immigration has sort of served two purposes, neither of which have much to do with migrants themselves. One of which is virtue signalling, as you say. It's how you send a message about that Ireland is a modern, progressive, diverse nation.
Land of 1,000 welcomes.
Exactly. All of that stuff, not so welcoming at the moment, as it turns out, because people are not happy about this issue. But you use it for the kind of purposes of making a statement about yourself as a nation. You also can use it quite cynically, and we've seen that across the piece, of a way to, you know, plug gaps in skills and, you know, employment, and address
wages.
Exactly, address those kinds of issues, and just try and kind of mask issues in the economy by artificially inflating GDP figures and stuff like that. So it's this is very there's that element to it as well. All at the same time is not making any provision whatsoever for the people that are coming in. And not whether that's in terms of integration, whether that's in terms of housing. Ireland has a really chronic housing issue, which is leading to a lot of their kind of young people who just decide that they have to get up and leave if they want to be able to get on in life. And you're just so struck by how this is obviously infuriating the Irish citizenry, who were never asked their view on any of this. And now there seems to be a concerted attempt to clamp down their ability to even talk about it in the form of their own hate crime bill, which is kind of slightly on ice at the moment. And obviously it doesn't help the people who you've basically sort of given a green light to. You've given a strong signal that they should come and claim asylum or become a migrant in your country. And yet there is no genuine provision for them, so much so that you've got tent cities popping up in the middle of Dublin. So it's definitely the unravelling of all of that virtue signalling, all of that cant. But you can only hope that at this point, it's not something that is just papered over again, that there's actually a proper democratic debate about this and how to get out of it, not just in Ireland, but in many of these countries.